turn up? I don't know.
Yeah, sure. Before I dive into the whole thing, I think Natalia's got the hand up.
Yeah, only to say that Joey was trying to connect, but he was asking for the passcode because he couldn't
No
connect with
worries.
the link.
I'll share a link. Thanks for that.
I'd like to say hello to Natch, who has not been to any of the meetings before, but is a bit of a marketing expert from Manchester University and is interested in helping out with how we promote what the group does. So hello, Natch.
Hello. I don't know about expert, but yeah, yeah.
Hey, well, if you were an expert in marketing, Natch, you would have said you were an expert, wouldn't you? So that's good marketing. Oh, thank you for coming along. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, no worries.
Oh, here's Joe.
Fab. And I think a few people will be popping along. Nice. All right, it's 35. So just as an introduction, we'll go around and people who can unmute and say hello, that would be lovely to hear from you. And we'll sort of say where we're calling from, and if you've had an interesting kind of nature spot recently, if that's a bird or that you've found anything interesting, we'll go around and you can say. If you can't speak or you're not able to go onto microphone, then feel free to type it in the chat, and we'll kind of skip over you if that's the case. But I'll start off and then nominate the next person after you. So I'm Roshni, I'm the Community Engagement Officer for Greater Manchester for the RSPB. I think most of you heard me say that about 5,000 times over the past year. But my nature moment recently is that I have not spotted a kingfisher for about a year. And over the past 2 days consecutively, I've seen a kingfisher along the canal here in Tobberden, which is just brought my spirits up immensely. So it's been really nice to see the flash of blue amongst the kind of winter bracken. So I'll pass on to Alistair.
Okay. Hello, I'm Alistair. I am one of the local group's development officers in the north of England. And the Manchester project is kind of all my fault because it was something I proposed a couple of years ago, and then we worked on to get funding and all the rest of it. And then through Roshni and the amazing work all you volunteers have done, it has taken off. So I am so pleased about that. Nature moment. Well, I was on a train yesterday going through South Cumbria, and it crosses quite a lot of estuaries, and just suddenly saw an absolutely huge mass of wading birds taking off and causing a great swirl above the water, and that was a lovely nature moment for me.
Awesome, thanks, Alistair. Do you want to pick the next person to go?
Oh, well, Leslie was here first, I think.
Hi, I'm Leslie Fowler. I'm a volunteer Swift champion, quite new to the RSPB. I had my first summer last summer, just going out there and trying to spot swifts, and we did, I think, found a nest quite close to where I live here in Lymm in Cheshire. So I'm a little bit on the edge of the Manchester group, but quite keen to get involved at this side of town as well. Used to work for the National Trust, now retired, so got a bit of time to kill, and thought it would be lovely to get involved with you guys. Swifts have always been a special pleasure to me from growing up, so that was what drew me to you. Nature moment. We don't get very many woodpeckers in our neck of the woods, strangely enough. There's probably quite a lot of greenery around, so they don't come into our gardens very often. But we do have one that visits us for a very short time every winter. So we have seen it in this last couple of weeks. So yeah, we're hoping he'll be back. So yeah, enjoying it. Can I nominate David?
Hi, thank you, Leslie. So I'm David. I'm here because I saw somewhere an advert for the Swift group, and I went to the original meeting in Didsbury, which is where I live, earlier in the summer. I did some Swift walks and logged the Swifts which I'd seen, or in fact, the Swifts which I hadn't seen, to be more accurate. I'm sort of generally interested in birds and trying to get a bit more interested. I just started doing some BTO surveys too. In terms of nature moments, I've been very lucky, and I think I've seen about 30 new species in the last month. But that's simply because I've been to visit my daughter, who lives in Washington, DC. So I've seen some great birds, a lot of them being very mundane, common or street kind of American birds, but all new to me, really. So that's me. And I would like to nominate Christina.
Oh, hello. I'm Christina. I'm from Hazel Grove, and I do community engagement as a volunteer. My most recent nature moments were probably, I travel sort of on the more rural road between Hazel Grove and Marple quite often, and I keep seeing buzzards at the moment, and I think they must be increasing in number because I never really noticed them before. And I was at Chatsworth yesterday, see all the Christmassy things, and heard woodpeckers and some tons of wrens making noise. Had the Merlin app out. So that was really fun.
Fab. Do you want to pick someone else, Christina?
Natch.
Hello, I'm Natch. I live in Salford at the moment. Pretty new to this area. I lived in Birmingham before. Um, yeah, I know the horror, right? Um, yeah, and I've never really done much volunteering here before, so I'm quite interested to get started. And uh, in terms of nature moment, I spotted like a gaggle of geese when I was walking to my local little um yeah, it's just based near like the River Irwell. So like sometimes like I see them in the summer, but actually the other week I saw them again. So yeah, I don't know what their deal is, but yeah, there you go.
Brilliant. Thanks, Natch. Do you want to pick someone who hasn't spoken?
Uh, Becky?
Was that me? I think it was me. Yeah, I'm a Swift champion volunteer, and I have been for a couple of years now. And I'm based in New Mills, so not too far from Christina. And yeah, I'm just really excited about the new RSPB group. And yeah, my nature moment, quite recently, my mum had the misfortune to be giving me a lift home on quite a long, windy route back to my house. And it was a really, really misty evening. And I've never seen a barn owl in the wild before. And I saw not one, but two, one shortly after the other. And it was amazing. And I was just freaking out, going, a barn owl, a barn owl. And my mum was like, yes, that's great, but I'm panicking here. So yeah, it was a great moment for me anyway. Yeah. Who hasn't been? Natalia?
Hi everyone, my name is Natalia. I am volunteer coordinator. It has been nice to see the group growing, and my nature moment has been recent. I saw a robin when I was walking around the botanical gardens last weekend. I live in Sheffield, so nice to see you all.
Thank you, Nat. I'll pick the next person. Brianna, I don't think you've gone. If you can unmute, feel free to introduce yourself. If you can't, then feel free to put it in the chat.
Hi, yeah, I'm Brianna. I'm a volunteer Swift champion in Manchester. My recent nature moment was I was on a walk with my gran and we saw a group of Egyptian geese, which was the first time I've ever seen one of them, and they're really cool. And that was in Whaley Bridge, Toddbrook Reservoir. So I was surprised that they'd be there, as it's just like a small reservoir. So yeah.
Thank you. And I think we've just got a few more people left. So Justin or Justine, if you want to unmute and introduce yourself, otherwise put it in the chat.
Hi there, I'm Justine. I'm a Swift Survey volunteer, the first time this year. Sorry, I'm on my phone because I'm actually working, so I'm listening in. I live in the sunny suburb of Chorlton, and my nature moment recently was the first time I saw the bearded tits at Leighton Moss in October. That was a lovely, lovely time. So I can't see who else is on the call, so someone else will have to nominate the next person.
No worries, I can do that. Stacey, I know you've just joined, but if you want to introduce yourself, if you can unmute, and if you've had a nature moment recently, then you can share that with us as well. Otherwise, you can put it in the chat. Ooh, I'm not sure we can hear you, Stacey. So if you want to put it in the chat, then we should be able to get your yeah, no worries about connection issues. Feel free to introduce yourself and a nature moment in the chat. And last but not least, over to you, Will, if you want to introduce yourself and your nature moment.
Yeah, hi everybody, I'm Will. I'm the project manager for RSPB project called the Species Volunteer Network, which is a UK-wide initiative aimed at getting more volunteers involved in our species recovery work. So yeah, recruiting, supporting, and developing volunteer teams. Such as the Greater Manchester Swift Champion team, and been involved since the start with this project. And yeah, it's been really great to see it grow over the past 2 years. With the support of Roshni and Alistair and all of you here.
Brilliant, thanks, Will. So we have this very exciting meeting today to talk about the new Manchester local group, which I'm sure you want to know more about and want to hear more from Alistair. And just to say that the new Manchester local group is a way for us to continue to do our Swift work and do even more for the city. So with a local group, as Alistair will explain in a presentation in a second, it provides more autonomy for you guys as a group. It means that you guys can fundraise or apply for grants if you want to. If you wanted to have more projects beyond Swifts, then you can also do that. So the sky's your limit, so to speak, when it comes to a local group. And there's lots of different examples from across the UK of what local groups are doing, not just for the RSPB, but for nature on their doorstep and in their patch. So we're really excited, and hopefully you guys are also excited for some of the things that you'll be able to do. There'll be time as well later on in the meeting for any questions that you might have. And of course, we'll give you our email addresses, and if you have any questions or reflections afterwards, please feel free to get in contact with us. I thought I'd hand back over to Will to talk about how local groups are kind of the long-term plan for this species recovery and around the volunteer networks. So just a quick word from you, Will. That'd be fab.
I guess I'm sure Alice is probably better talking about their local groups, but yeah, from a volunteering perspective and from a species recovery perspective, often we have funding for projects or staff which only lasts maybe like 1 or 2 years or possibly slightly longer, and we usually have like really good work going on. We get a great team of volunteers set up, But then, for some species, particularly species like swift, which are going to need really long-term commitment and involvement from everybody, from volunteers, from communities, to really have a chance at turning their fortunes around. That the local group model is a fantastic way of enabling that work to continue, for the foreseeable future, for as long as is needed for that species to be able to recover. So this is a way to kind of, everything that's happened over the past 2 years to really, keep that going and build on that as well. And I think this is a really exciting new chapter, and I see this as an option for a lot of projects, particularly where, like I said, we've got funding that runs out or staff that can't continue to support the projects. But yeah, local groups in themselves are absolutely fantastic and do some really great things. And yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing more tonight as well about how it's going to work in Manchester. And really excited about that.
Amazing. Thank you, Will. And I'll now hand over to Alistair, who you can share your screen and will tell us more about local groups.
I forgot to unmute myself before I shared, and I had to find the unmute button. Right. Total professionalism here. As I said, just briefly introduce what I do. I am one of the local group's development officers in England. There are 3 of us, and we look after 115 local groups throughout England. I have a fairly small patch that goes from Carlisle across to Newcastle and then down to Bedfordshire, Cambridgeshire and Hertfordshire. So just basically from the M25 to the Scottish border, that little corner, that's me. I was traditionally focused in the north, and I still do focus on the north. No disrespect to the people down there, but this is where all the cool stuff happens. We have about 125 local groups throughout the UK, in all 4 countries. And I want to talk first about what the RSPB local groups do. So what we do is we've broken it down into 5 main categories of activities, which are conservation, campaigning, fundraising, engagement, and the social side of things. And within those categories with groups, we try to break it down into kind of small, medium, and large, as in, how many people have you got in your group? How much time have you got? So let's find things that you can do with the resources that you have. And my philosophy, which will be a big guide to what we do in Manchester, is it's much better to have small things that happen than big plans that don't. It's really easy to have all sorts of crazy ideas and then too many of them and they don't work out. And that is something that I want to make sure that we do. But as I said to Roshni earlier, I know that you lot are doing so much already. I'm not quite sure that applies, but we keep an eye on it all the same. Let me just break down those 5 categories a little. So I'm trying to get my my thing to move. There we are. Conservation. I mean, a really good example of the kind of conservation work that groups do is Swift Streets, what you've been doing in Manchester. The reason I wanted the Manchester project to happen, the reason I wanted it to be about swifts, is because they are an urban species. They nest in the centre of cities, in the centre of towns. You could have a swift box or a swift brick on a back-to-back on a tower block anywhere. And bringing the swifts together in Swift Streets is fantastic, but it also brings the people together and it brings nature to people in cities. We've got over 200 nature reserves in the RSPB, but they're obviously out in the country, and the vast majority of people are in the cities. So to me, this is a fantastic way of reaching people. And through things like surveys, those of you who've been going out doing Swift surveys provides really vital data for us, knowing not just where the Swifts are and how they're doing, but it also helps us to think, where do we focus our efforts to help them? Where is a good place for a Swift Street? What can we do there? There's other things, protecting habitats. People think that biodiversity is something that happens in the Amazon or the Congo. It doesn't. It happens everywhere. It's in your local park. It's in your garden. And there's so many little areas, so many things that we can do. Just maybe not having that bit of your park mowed, just a bit of space for some insects, a bit of space for some birds. So thinking about things on that kind of level, what can we do locally? And then creating habitats are the things we can do where we maybe have suddenly a little wildflower meadow appearing somewhere. One of my volunteers down in Worcester has this lovely thing he calls nature tangles, where they haven't got much room, what he does is put a structure up, something that plants can grow on. It can be a basic structure, it can be a little work of art or something from all our many artists we seem to have here. And then you plant a honeysuckle or an or some sort of plant that will attract pollinators. And then round that you start planting, there'll be some hawthorns and some hazels and things that will provide shelter for birds and for insects. And then put a little fence around it to protect it and put something on it just to tell people what it is. And you put a few of those in a row, even when you don't have a lot of space, you're creating a bit of a corridor for nature. So there's all sorts of things that can be done on all kinds of scales. And the other important thing, another aspect of surveys, is if you do create a swift street, if you do create some sort of habitat, is monitoring. Whatever we do, we need to know if it's working and how it's working and what we need to change, or if it is working, yeah, how do we do it somewhere else? So that kind of monitoring, if we put in Swift bricks or something, we need to know how many Swifts there are. Is this working? So there's all sorts of conservation activities like that that we can do and that local groups carry out. In terms of campaigning, well, a good example, let's talk about Swift World. Swift bricks, making them compulsory in new builds. In Greater Manchester, the most recent success was with Bury Council. Bury are now making Swift bricks compulsory in all new buildings that go up where possible. And that's something that we campaign on with local councils, but we also campaign on a national level to try and change policy, so that we create those sort of spaces, those gaps, those holes in buildings and under the eaves that Swifts have been using for centuries and are being lost as we put in soffits and fascias and things. We also, the RSPB campaigns at every level, from local to government level. We lobby the government on all sorts of matters, and sometimes we have fantastic successes. One recently was a ban on sand eel fishing in the North Sea. And sand eels are the main food for puffins and all sorts of seabirds. And they were being fished on a commercial scale, mostly to make into animal feed and fertilizer. And these birds were being starved. And that has changed. It will make a huge difference. That is a change of government policy. So there's all sorts we can do, and we can work on a national level, almost locally. A lot of our groups meet with their MPs, lobby their MPs to explain just how important nature is to them, to take their MPs out to a site nearby and say, this is what you have here. You know, this is the sort of thing that we want to look after, and think of the whole environment as being that patchwork of all these little sites and linking them up and getting people to think about that. And then working with developers. The RSPB works with some big companies like Barrett. I'll talk about that in a minute, to have Swift bricks put in. And where there's a local development happening, can we go and talk to them? And we do it in a friendly way and say, look, we really want to make this as nature friendly as we can. And we've got all these ideas, and they won't cost an awful lot, and we can come and monitor and look at it for you. So there's all sorts of kind of campaigning we can do. And this is just what I'm giving here is a bit of a kind of menu of ideas, a lot of which you're already doing. Fundraising. So a local group is in a position to be able to fundraise with the RSPB name. To raise money, you know, in straightforward ways, like you can have a bucket collection in the street, you can run a cake sale, you can have a quiz night in a pub. There are things like easy fundraising. This is a scheme where a group can sign up to it, and then if people shop through the easy fundraising website, they can go to all sorts of companies who sell online, buy stuff, and a percentage will go to the group. And some of our groups make hundreds of pounds a year on this. When you've raised money, the great thing about being in this position as a local group is you've then got that money to spend on conservation and on engagement and whatever you want to do. And applying for grants. Lots of our groups in recent years have got grants and match funding from various organisations. In Lancaster, we just got £500 from the university that has paid for a Swift Street to go up here. From a wind turbine community fund. So these are all things, you know, that you can do once you are a local group, which we can't actually do at the moment. We can't actually get more money and put it into what you're doing because it's it sounds daft, because the project's funded, we can't put more money into it. This way we have some, you know, financial independence. Engagement. Well, this is something that all of you are doing, the Swift champions and the events that you've had, like the Big Garden Birdwatch, is what can we do just to raise awareness, to get people involved? in person, but then using social and other media to connect with people, working with local radio, with local papers. There's still an awful lot of traditional media that reaches a lot of people. Obviously, when Big Garden Birdwatch is on, there's a few of us who are volunteers on a big media team who go on the radio stations, who always want to talk to you at 7:30 on a Sunday morning for some reason. But anyway, but we do that and we promote what we're doing. And this year, 600,000 people did Big Garden Birdwatch. Now, that's about 1% of the population of the UK. So if you think about a city the size of Manchester, where you've got a couple of 100,000 people, well, that's maybe, however, divide that by 100. Quick, Roshni, help me. That's 2,000 people. You've got 2,000 people who did Big Garden Birdwatch with their families, and they're that interested already. How do we build on that? How do we give them more so they can learn more and do more? That's the kind of thing we can do through engagement. Collaboration with other organizations. Manchester has got so many fantastic groups working in it. We've got the Swift groups like Bolton and Bury Swifts and South Manchester Swifts. We've got things like City of Trees. We've got some of the nature neighbourhoods that the RSPB is working with, and also just other community groups that they don't have to be conservation groups. They can be faith groups, community groups. They can be absolutely anything. We've had cyclists doing events for Swifts and all sorts of people. I've got a university hockey team that want to have the RSPB logo on their strip and go out and promote us. So there's all sorts of things. And then I think the in-person connection, things like Big Garden Birdwatch, and just taking people out on walks or talks where they can learn more. What we want to do is say to people, we don't care how much you know. This is a chance to learn. This is what this is about. This isn't going to be we've got to be a bird expert. You just got to want to be interested in nature, and we get it. People can't love what they haven't seen, and they can't care for what they don't love. So that's our process, is we got to hook them, show them nature's brilliant, and then get them doing something, getting them involved. That's engagement. And then just the social side, a lot of our groups, a big part of it is they just love going out. A lot of them are bird watchers. They go on trips. They really enjoy it. They have get-togethers. They have speakers coming and talking to the group. Sometimes, especially around Christmas, groups will just have a night where they have a social. They'll get some mince pies, maybe some mulled wine. People will come in and share their nature experiences, as we were doing a moment ago, show their slides, their photos and things they've done. So there's that side of it, because we want volunteering to also be something that people enjoy, be a part of your life and make the connections amongst yourselves, because that's the other thing that will help it build and form a team and make it strong. So how do they actually work? Well, I've put 3 headings on this one. An RSPB local group is a constituted community group. I'll explain what that means in a minute. The groups are semi-autonomous, and they're also basically financially independent. So let's look at those 3 headings. A constituted community group has a legal status. It's not an RSPB thing. It's part of the laws of the land and the fundraising regulations and all the rest of it. Now, that means that it comes with rules, things you can and can't do, but it also creates opportunities, those being you can do the fundraising, you can do the engagement, you can apply for the grants, you can do all these things as a community group. The group has to have a written constitution, and we have a standard template for that in the RSPB that covers all the legalities and explains the whole situation. So it's effectively a signed agreement with us for you to be called an RSPB group, for you to use our logo. We'll make sure there's a special RSPB Manchester logo, not just a general one. And for all the rules and regulations that you have to follow, they're pretty trivial compared to the opportunities that this creates and the kind of independence it can give you. Semi-autonomous. Now, basically what that means is, if you go and volunteer for the RSPB on a reserve, someone's going to say, right, we'd like you to do this. We'd like you to get behind the counter and on the welcome desk, or we'd like you to go and cut some shrubs down or whatever. This is a different kind of volunteering, because we want people to be able to do what they want to do, to have their own ideas, and for us to then support that. So we're not kind of saying, oh, well, do whatever you do and ignore it. The idea is that you will have plans and ideas. And I know from some emails and chats I've had with some of you already, there are some amazing ideas, some fantastic things, and we want to be able to support those. So obviously they have to be, legal and in keeping with our aims. Not allowed to blow anything up or anything like that, within reason. But this is what we want, is you to be able to, you will kind of be running yourselves. So rather than being volunteers for the RSPB staff, you will be volunteers in your group. I mean, you will have an actual official line manager, but it will be much more about doing your own thing and being supported to do that. Being financially independent, if we start a new group, we have a fund. So to kick off, we've got a kind of seed money of £500 we can give the group. Now that can be used to arrange events. If you can hire a hall and set up a talk, set up an event, and then charge people to come to the event. And then you can start building up some money and have some income. The group will have its own bank account. It can have its own bank account with Lloyds Bank, which is who we use. You can then raise the funds to support what you're doing. You can apply for grants, and a lot of our groups, the money they receive, they donate back to the RSPB for various projects on our reserves, but you can actually spend the money you raise on anything that is furthering the aims of the RSPB. So if you run an event and you make a few £100 and that's going to buy you some Swift boxes and get them put up somewhere, you can do that. Or it's going to buy you the bits you need for a nature tangle or to run another event or whatever. So this is the idea, is to make it self-funding and keep it rolling over, which is what we can't do with the project at the moment. So pros and cons both ways. Now, roles in the group, this is the boring bit about the actual technicalities. If you have a constituted community group, you need people in certain roles or certain positions to be filled. Now, most of our groups have a leader, so someone who's actually in that role. And we have training courses for that, on how to manage a group, of all the stuff you need to know, the legalities and all the rest of it. But we have quite a few groups and some new groups that formed that don't have a leader. They work as a cooperative, work together. And that often works out really well. And you can have a sort of rotating chair, someone who will look after meetings or just, take it in turns to do things. But in every group, we have someone who is the main contact. And what that means is we have their email, their contact details, and that's how we communicate with the group. Because with some of our groups, we've got, 50 or 60 volunteers, and it's quite difficult to keep up with everyone. So we have a central point of contact who then cascades, to use the horrible management speak word, but then, gets that information out to everybody else. And the other side of it, the local groups officer will be the main contact, is that when you want to talk to the RSPB and you need some help, you can come through me, and then I will know who to talk to, who to get you to help. So what we do is just create that channel, that connection. One of the actual rules, we need 3 people to form a committee, 3 people who are actually called local group committee members. That is one of the rules of constituted groups. And those people, or however many there are, you can all be committee members. It's the more the merrier. We need to have 3 committee meetings a year. So it's basically just like a planning meeting to say, this is what we're doing, this is what we're going to do. And we have minutes of that. You share that with me, so I get a picture of what's happening. And once a year, there has to be an annual general meeting where you agree things like who is going to carry on being on the committee. If you've got new committee members, you've got people leaving. So it's just kind of housekeeping stuff. I've been to quite a few group AGMs. I think the record is about 2.5 minutes you're staying, that person's leaving, this person's stepping up. Nominated, yes. Seconded, yes. Right, let's have some cake. So they're not a hugely onerous task. The one thing that we also need is an annual report, because we want a record of what our groups are doing so that we can especially spread the word. Within the RSPB, we want people to know the incredible things that you are doing, as well as letting the outside world know. So we just collect what groups are doing, what they're happy with, what they're not happy with, and that helps us support and plan. We do need a treasurer. So we need someone who can manage accounts and produce an annual financial report. The bookkeeping is pretty straightforward. It's pretty much just, the ins and outs. The annual report, there is a a template for that, just a very straightforward spreadsheet template. And we have a training course. So we do an online training course with our head of finance, our head of volunteer. It goes through everything you need to know. We've got a massive documentation. The other thing we'll need if you have a bank account is that we need at least 2 signatories, ideally have a few more. You can have access to online banking, so you can do transaction, pay things and collect money that way. We've got some groups that are doing various cheeky things where they've set up a PayPal business account, so they can now just take direct payments through a QR code. There's all sorts of things you can do. So we do need some signatories, and those are the kind of obligatory things. Not that we are forcing them on groups, but the law states that's what we need. So to have the independence, to have those facilities, we need to cover certain technicalities. Other roles, well, there's so many things we want to know what people want to do. Do they want to run events? Do they want to do publicity? Do they want to do fundraising? Again, this is all about you've got ideas and we can help support them. Or you say, we really need someone to do this thing. So you come to me and say, yeah, right, we'll try and recruit. We'll get it on our system as an opportunity and we will promote it through social media and other places, and we'll see if we can find more volunteers. The main thing to emphasize is you are not on your own with this by any means. This is my job, and I will be the first point of contact, not just for the main contact, for anybody who wants to talk to me. Absolutely anybody. But I have 2 rules of my own, which are that if you email or phone me, you are not allowed to say, I'm sorry to bother you, because that is my job. Okay? That is why I'm here, to be bothered. The second rule is there are no stupid questions. The only stupid thing is not asking the question and getting yourself in a pickle. So everything is open, and that's why I'm here. And that's why I love this job, because I can support all this amazing stuff that happens and all the incredible. I actually have about 470 volunteers, and the stuff that is happening, we've got groups who run cruises. A group in Liverpool who do wildlife cruises on the Mersey Ferry. We've got another on the East Coast who do cruises out under the cliffs at Bempton, cruises out into the Wash. We've got groups who are managing 20 hectares of land for their local council. We've got groups that are working with universities. We've got university ambassadors in all sorts of places doing amazing stuff. The range of things happening. I don't have time this evening, but we're hoping we can set up an in-person meeting in the new year, and we will go through all that. But the other thing, as well as being a person here to support you, we've got all sorts of online training courses. You can learn all about how to be a treasurer, how to be you can learn about GDPR, you can learn all sorts of stuff about about safeguarding and whatever. Some roles obviously have to have training, but our training is open to everyone, to all our volunteers, and that will be a record of something that you have done. We've also got Assemble. That's the thing you would have applied through to get into this role. That has a document hub, and we've got a load of documents on how to run a group, how to deal with the finances, how to arrange events. We've got all sorts of documentation. So there's a massive support there for you that we will provide. And that's the whole idea, is to have volunteers doing the things they want to do that are what the RSPB is about. And something I'll say is, I'll move on to my next slide. Kind of what's in it for you? Well, the main thing, and you've all shown this, you've just come in because you want to make a difference for nature. You want to be involved. And that's really what it's about. But there are other things. If ultimately you're interested in a career in conservation, being involved, then to have volunteered for an organization this size is a pretty major thing to have. Because people have degrees in conservation, this, that, and the next thing is great. But when we know they've been on the ground, they've shown commitment, they have learned skills, they're the ones we're really interested in. And the other chance there is that program that you can learn through, whether that's for a career or just for yourself to find out more and learn more. It's an opportunity. So one final slide. I don't want to rush, but once again, the real reason we're doing this is because you have done such amazing work. Now, the plan from the beginning was, when the funding ran out, we would carry this on somehow. But I didn't know just how good this was going to be. I didn't know just how much you were all going to do. and the incredible stuff that has happened with the Swift Streets and the events that have happened and all the Swift works and the surveys. It's been amazing. This cannot stop. This has to carry on. Because what you are doing to me, local groups and volunteers, you put the S into RSPB, and that is society. That is people coming together to share something that they love and to act together for something that they care about. And that to me, I know it probably sounds a little bit sentimental, but that is what we really need. And also, Manchester is the second largest city in England. We need a presence there. You know, we need to have people there on the ground doing stuff. I'm also mentioning that Manchester is obviously the coolest city in England as well. You know, I'm sure your Liverpools and Birminghams and that big place down London, I think it's called, they might disagree, but we know best. And it's also the birthplace of the RSPB. We have a legacy there. This is where this organization started, with one woman standing up against the slaughter of birds to be made into stupid hats, against an industry that was worth £20 million in the money of the time. It would now be billions. This is like someone standing up against a, an Amazon or a Twitter or whatever. It showed incredible courage and good old-fashioned northern bloody mindedness, which we also need. So that's the thing I always ask myself: what would Emily do? There she is, our Emily, when she was still quite a young woman, but she founded the society in 1889. She was 34 years old, and it was 30 years before she was even going to be able to vote. But she got that going in Didsbury, in her house in the Croft in Fletcher Moss Park. And let's bring things full circle. The South Manchester Swift group that we've worked with a lot as part of this project, they convinced the council when they refurbished Emily's house to put in Swift bricks. So they've now just gone in. We've got Swift bricks in Emily Williamson's house in the building where the RSPB started. Now, there are plaques to Emily on that building, but I tell you what, she would love those Swift bricks more. It's just fantastic. So that, in some ways, is a bit vague, but it gives you the structure that we want to work in. The rest of it, in a way, is up to you. And it would be so lovely if we could all meet and have proper chats and make proper connections, figure out what we all want to do and how to take that forward. And I really want to be a part of that and support and continue this fantastic work you've been doing. So thank you for listening to that.
Thank you, Alistair. That's amazing. You're getting claps across the board. So there's a lot of information there. We will send out the slides as well afterwards, and obviously there's a recording to look back on. We now have a bit of time for any questions. So there's been a few questions in the chat, but also if you have any questions, then feel free to put your hand up or use the little yellow hand that you can raise as well. If you can't speak at the moment, then you can put it in the chat. One that came through a little earlier, Alistair, which I think is one for you, is around, is there an election process for committee members, or how do other local groups work around kind of create who has those initial roles?
That's an interesting point. Most of our groups started so long ago, it's lost in the mists of time. But it obviously people need to get together and think about what it is they want to do, because volunteering is not just about doing something positive for nature or for the community. It's got to be something positive for the person. You've got to enjoy it. It's got to be something that you want to do. So I think if we can get everyone together and chat about, okay, what, who wants to. I read somewhere something recently that said that the quickest way to silence a room full of British people is to say, do we have any volunteers? But obviously we have got volunteers. And we want to see, people who would say, well, yeah, I've done some bookkeeping. I'd be happy to be a treasurer, or someone to say, yeah, I'd be happy to coordinate or to be an events organizer, or I want to carry on doing the Swift service. I want to do all that, because that is all to continue as well. So don't think that everyone has to think, oh Lord, I got to take on some big admin thing. But I think if we can get together, properly and chat, then we will do that and discuss it. Everyone discuss it between themselves, and You know, I can't imagine we'll have two people saying, I want to be leader. No, I want to be leader, you know, and it all
And
turns
if we
ugly.
did, then
Yes,
there's still the model of there being kind of rotating chairs or multiple
exactly. Yes.
people. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that works really well for some of we have a new group in Bristol that's actually only about 2 or 3 years old. Um, and they have taken that approach of making it more of a kind of joint concern. Sometimes it's great when groups have leaders. You've got someone who kind of drives things and carries things. But I know when you advertise for a leader, people interpret that word in two ways. They either think, "Oh, that sounds too much," or they think, "Oh, leader," and then and then they're the ones you have to watch, you know. But I think if people understand that you already know what we want to do because you're doing it, and you can probably tell us more about what the group needs, and that's how we would do it. And I think there'll be room for everyone to do what they want to do. And we may find that there are gaps, in which case then we have to, you say, right, well, maybe nobody feels up to this thing. So, right, we're going to advertise for a treasurer. We're going to find somebody. We're going to go through various things, find someone who's qualified who wants to support it. Because some people bring skills that are not necessarily nature things, but that we need in order to contribute. So that slightly evasive answer to the question, but yeah, it will be elected by the group in a way because you will agree it between yourselves how it works. And I'll be there to settle any fights, so it'll be fine.
Glad we've got an umpire.
Yeah.
Is there any more questions that anyone has, or any thoughts that they'd like to share with the group? Feel free to unmute. We've got a question in the chat. Joe's asked, what is the future of the Swift surveys as it stands? Would they still be coordinated through Will, or would the group take on ownership of the whole project? Maybe that's a question. Will, if you want to take it, happy to also take it after you.
Yeah, so when the new local group starts, that'll be up to the group to decide and coordinate. So yeah, I won't be line managing the group anymore. So it'll be up to the group really, I guess. Whether you want to continue the surveys or do them in a different way or anything like that. But obviously there'll still be the support and advice of people like Alistair and myself, and Rushdie as well. I don't know, Alice, does that kind of answer the question?
I think that's a good answer. And I should quickly point out this isn't Will sort of saying, right, I'm done. It's simply that Will has so many other projects. But we have run Swift surveys in Lancaster and all over the place where we've worked with a volunteer coordinator, someone who, you know, can figure out we gather the volunteers that we can and we think, where do we want to do the surveys? Where can we assign people? We've got all sorts of information and documentation on this. We've got training sessions that we can do. So we will make sure that people are trained up to organize and support that. Oh yes, no, Will, scary thought. I know. We'll make sure he doesn't go far, don't worry. No, we can deal with that. And although kind of volunteer management is my official role, I've myself have done a lot of survey work and do have a bit of a background in that. So that's something I will always be able to support people with as well. Does that answer your question, Joe? I hope.
Let us know in the chat.
I'll still be
There
in
we go.
Manchester anyway, so I'll be hanging around. I'm sure you'll see me around.
Yeah, and I think something that was put in the presentation, but just to reiterate, is that like this is not a push the boat of the local group and kind of wave from the shoreline. Will very much still be around, and there will be links with the RSPB, and you can always ask for advice and extra resource and help. So you're very much not expected to do this alone. We're here to make this happen. But also you guys know what we need to do to improve the Swift surveying. So things that came up this year about maybe having more local coordinators and going back to having a more traditional surveying rather than using just Swift Mapper, you would then be able to kind of implement and integrate that with our help. So we'll still be around to offer that extra support if needed. So yeah, you don't need to worry too much, Joe. Yeah, fab. Any other questions? Christina, go for it.
Yeah, I was just wondering when you thought we might all meet up and start trying to shape the group. And obviously it's Christmas at the moment, so everybody's quite busy. I was wondering maybe it might be in January or that sort of time.
Great question. We've got a provisional date in the diary, so I can say it now and then you can jot it down and hopefully it'll work for you. We've provisionally said Wednesday the 21st of January, so in the evening, because we recognise that people work, and we might even see if there can be a hybrid version. So if there's anybody who really can't come but really wants to participate, there'll be a way for them to get involved. But we'll book out a room, we'll have some of that tea and cake that we were talking about earlier, and really kind of discuss, get those roles down, and hopefully get signatories and things and move the process along. So our ask from you guys is over the Christmas break, have a think about some of the roles, some of the projects you might want to run, things that are already happening or things that you'd love to see. And then we can start like joining the dots together in that in-person meeting. So yeah, that's our ask from you guys. So Wednesday, the 21st of January in the evening, make a note of that and we'll confirm with you over Assemble and emails and WhatsApp. But that's just an initial. Fab. Becky, I see you've got a hand up.
Yeah, I was just going to ask about the casework. Is that a similar thing to everything else that the group does? Like that could potentially be moved across to the local group?
Yes, I'll give you an example. We have a group in Bromley, southeast London, who they actually do a big Swift survey about every 5 years or something. So they kind of save it up and try and build up a picture over time. They have a kind of Swift champion scheme, is that they have somebody in each ward of the borough, sort of breaking it down to the local authority. And each of those people is the sort of champion for that, and they go around looking at where there might be some work going to happen, where there's a known Swift colony, or where there's some development where we might be able to benefit from Swift bricks or some kind of provision being made. And I think that kind of model of casework, of doing it that way. I also obviously work closely with our area conservation team and Jerry, who's our senior conservation officer, who was also a big part of setting up this project in the first place. And okay, he oversees casework and so on. And we have training available on that. We have other people that can advise. As some of you will have come across Louise Bentley, Bolton and Berry Swifts, who is just the most amazing Swift person there is. So yeah, that is something we would very much want to support. I think everything you are doing now, we want to continue within a new structure, and then I'll use that new structure to also allow other things to happen. If you just want to carry on as an amazing Swift group, then that's brilliant, because that's a fantastic focus. A local group doesn't have to be about doing this, that, and everything. It could be focused on a species. And the fundraising could be for Swifts. You could put on talks about other things that will attract people, but then the money goes into Swifts. That this is the kind of thing that getting together and working through that would be fantastic.
Okay, thank you.
We've just had another question in the chat around the group's boundaries. So where would the group's boundaries be? There's already a Stockport group, which is true. So would it just be central Manchester? Would it be a larger Greater Manchester? If you have any thoughts on that, Alistair.
We don't want any turf wars. We know Manchester has got a bad background of that. I remember the 80s. But yeah, at the moment, the Greater Manchester area, Stockport's tricky because when they're trying to sound cool, they say they're in Manchester. When they're trying to be posh, they say they're in Cheshire. So it's always very difficult to pin Stockport down. But we've got a group in Stockport, we've got a group in Wigan, we've got a group in Bolton. Now, at the moment, the groups in Wigan and Bolton are they're more focused on the kind of more the sort of bird side of it. So taking people out to see birds and running talks and things. They're not really involved in actual engagement or conservation. That's not really their focus. It's more the social and the the outdoor aspect of it. Stockport group is there, and I would want to work with them because there's someone in the Stockport group who's currently doing some really good Swift work and talking to South Manchester Swifts, and we kind of bring that together. But to be really honest, one of the issues we have with some of our local groups is some of them have been around for 50 years, and I think have some of the original members still. And we're trying to, it's quite hard to get some change going, and they struggle to attract new people because the only thing that they're offering is, a kind of talk once a month in a church hall, and a bird walk or whatever. And those things in themselves are fantastic. The social element, the amount that people learn and the connections that they make are so important. But I think especially younger people, younger people want to do something that's making a difference and getting involved in that sense. And so we did have a Manchester group, which actually closed down. It's maybe about 7 years ago due to some various technical difficulties. But they did some great stuff and want to kind of one of them carried on volunteering until she was 91, by which time she had done 60 years of volunteering. And we have special awards for people for each 5 years, but we don't have one for 60 years. Nobody's done that. So we had to invent one for Sheila, who was absolutely amazing person. And so there is a fantastic tradition of these things going on. And I hope that if we get this group going, I want to think of it as being kind of Greater Manchester, certainly sort of
Manchester.
yeah, let's say the M60, shall we? Oh dear, we've got people in Hazel Grove. That's no good. Well, I think I'm thinking kind of that, but that sort of area would be where we'd be working. But obviously, there's so much stuff we'd like to do, like along the Mersey Valley, the water parks at Chorlton and Sale and areas like that. There's all sorts of things we can do in those places. So I think we want to. Oh, cool. Yeah. Raptor Talk. Yes, the Raptor group do some amazing stuff. That's another thing. The first ever kind of off reserve fundraising engagement thing the RSPB ever did was about 20, must be about 20 years ago. And that was the Manchester Peregrine Project. It was on the old co-op building. And we had people out with telescopes showing people, you've got the fastest creature on Earth right here in the middle of your city. It had a huge impact. And that is the kind of thing, that's the tradition that we have there. So I think drawing a strict boundary would be difficult and also a bit counterproductive because let's work with those other groups. Let the other groups see, hey, we've got a lot of people coming here and new people getting involved because we're doing something a bit different. So, get let's have a knock-on effect and kind of spread it around. So, we've got
Yeah.
the Stockport group work closely with the High Peak group, and they work with the Macclesfield group, and we've got lots of groups who get together. We're all one big family.
Beautifully put, Alistair.
Thank you.
And kind of as a short answer as well of definitely Manchester and Salford. It doesn't just
Yes.
have to be the kind of the one city. I think the two cities together, absolutely. We've got loads of folks in Salford, and it's stronger when we're kind of one united local group.
Yeah.
Maybe I shouldn't
Um,
say united in a Manchester context, but
oh
anyway.
dear.
So
Uh, cracking. Yeah, I mean, there might be some Altrincham fans here who'll be really offended. There's fantastic comment from Leslie there about subgroups within the group. That's the thing. Maybe we end up with something where we've got a little branch that's kind of northeast, nearer the Oldham end of things, and we've got another one that's more Salford, and people organise those things, but then everyone comes together to share ideas. I think in a place the size of Manchester, we have to think in a distributed way like that, as Leslie has just said. And maybe we will have our Swift people that will be doing something, and then we'll have our engagement people that will be doing something else. Christina was sort of emailing today about some amazing ideas she got for working with the university and talking to the architecture department about making buildings nature friendly from the very beginning of when you're designing them. And there's all sorts of stuff like that. The university ambassador thing, getting students involved to think about what they're doing and play a part, and then having people who can you focus on particular things. So I'm mentioning earlier that Natch is a promotions person, a marketing person. Where people can bring those skills, then yeah, fantastic. Let's have that. All right, bye, Joe. Enjoy the film. Thank you for coming along.
Fab. As we are definitely coming to the end of the meeting, if we've got one final question, we can take that, and then just sort of final things before we close off. Is there a burning question before we finish for the evening? No worries. If you have anything that comes up over the holiday break, then you can send an email to me, Will, Alistair, and or you can put something in the WhatsApp chat, and we can get back to you if there's any questions or things that you need kind of clarifying. We'll also have this recorded and send this out to you so you can watch it back if there's anything you might have missed. We'll also send out the PowerPoint slides. You'll have a lot of information, so there'll be a lot to kind of mull over. And just a final thing, again, the 21st of Wednesday, the 21st of January in the evening, we're looking for that to be our in-person date. It would be amazing to get as many of you there as possible. We appreciate not everyone might be able to come, but if you can, get it in your diaries. And yeah, we'll look into a hybrid option if necessary, but the in-person really makes it happen. And then we will be talking about roles and signatories and getting the kind of final logistics down to really make this a local group. So as a action for you guys over the winter until the 21st of January, have a think about some of those roles, have a think about some ways in which the group might be able to work, maybe some projects you really want to work on, things you want to see continue, and maybe come with a little list for that meeting. And it should be a really good one as well. I think that'll be amazing. Great. Yeah. I think that's everything. Alistair, Will?
Final little sum up. We want you to keep doing what you're doing. That is going to be the basis of this. It's how we continue that, as I think Joe asked, how we keep the surveys going, how we do all that. That is going to be the basis. And then we can build on that as much as we need to, but it'll be small steps. We'll just do what we can and we'll make it grow. Amazing. RSPB started one woman in a house in Didsbury. There's now 1.1 million members and 220 nature reserves. So starting small works out in the end. We'll be able to do that. So listen, thank you so much for everybody for coming along. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a lovely evening, everyone. Fab.
Bye-bye.
We'll see you soon. Bye. Thank you.
Nearly done.
I think it might be more of a kind of background for Stacey and George. Do you want to finish recording, Will?
Oh, yeah.
Nice. Here we go. And there were 3.
I always find these big